this on. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So today we will do a couple of things. One is that we will consolidate, I wouldn't say consolidate, but to instead of touching some new concepts which we have been doing, today we will use the previous concepts to start to put together some vision. So that's the first thing that I'd like to do. And the second thing is we will continue with the meditation as well. We'll be doing more meditation as time goes on, but I want to get into the habit of doing it. I wouldn't say every class, but quite frequently we will do the meditation as well. Okay. So with that, what I'd like to do is to run through certain conceptual combinations of things that we have already seen before. So there'll be nothing a new concept that we have not done before, but I think you will see as a combination of concepts some new ideas will come, which we will go into that. So that being the case, let's start with understanding the concept of praptasya prapti, which we have seen before. In fact, one thing I would suggest to you, recommend to you, that even if you don't know Sanskrit very well, or not at all, be familiar with the sound of praptasya prapti. So use that in you should get familiar with it, praptasya prapti. And as you know, praptasya prapti means an acquisition of the already acquired. That's what it means. Prapti means to possess something. And prapta means one which is already possessed. So we have seen this before, that very example that I didn't know where my credit card was, but it was in the house itself. And so this is what is the example of the praptasya prapti. So now let us examine the nature of praptasya prapti in our lives. How is that important for us? How should we change our attitudes and our experiences of life, given that now I have an understanding of praptasya prapti? So what we could do is to look at the elements of any praptasya prapti. Example of the credit card being one example of your, this actually happened to me just yesterday. It was very interesting. I was driving and the sun was very bright and I had my dark glasses already clipped on. I have a clip-on set of dark glasses. And I didn't realize that I had the dark glasses because despite that the sun was very bright. And I'm fumbling for my dark glasses and I said, I must have put them away somewhere. I don't know where I put them. Then I said, forget it. The next thing I just wanted to scratch or something, and it's there and already in my It's another example of praptasya prapti. This happens, you will see more and more if you notice it in your life. Anyway, so that is the definition of praptasya prapti. And now we have to see the process of how does it affect, what are the elements of it. Okay? So there are three stages of the effect of praptasya prapti. One is, I don't know where the object is. Don't know where it is. So in our life, for example, we don't know where the source of my joy is. We just don't know. It appears to be there some places, but when I really find it, it disappears. Never constant. Surprises. And frustrating at times. Just when I think I've got my life done in a certain way, some things happen. My health deteriorates. Swamiji used to say that, this is what is defined by mood. Everything is okay, but you are in a bad mood. If you had control over the mood, it will be one thing. But you cannot have control over the mood. These things just surprise you. And it is not under your so things like, for example, anger is not something you can control. Swamiji used to give this example. He says that supposing I say, okay, now I want everybody in the class to get angry. You can't. You can't. You cannot say, okay, I'm going to get angry now. Right now, I'm just sitting here, I'm going to get angry. You cannot. And yet, anger comes all of a sudden. You don't invite it, but it just comes. You get frustrated something and it just boils over. So, you don't know where the source of joy is. So similarly, in the case of, I would go back to the example in my own life that I will bring it up again and again. That really speaking, the moment I found that the credit card was not in my wallet, I'm telling you, this is this same wallet, I'll show it to you, so you don't think I'm bluffing. This is my wallet, and this is the same place. I only have one credit card. I've thrown everything away. I only have the Costco Visa. That's the only one that I have. And it's in this one right here. And this is the one. It was not there. It was not there. All of a sudden, I had anxiety, I had a worry, I had uncertainty as to where it is. So the first stage of praptasya prapti is that you don't know where it is. So therefore, now the anxiety and the uncertainty and the worry is at the highest. Okay, this is that. Then comes the second stage. That stage is, I am convinced, so that's an important word, convinced, that the object is around close to me. It may not be right next, it around me, but I still haven't found it. This is the second stage. So I would change my example slightly to say, suppose that this did not happen because I actually myself put the credit card away, but suppose for a minute that my wife had taken my credit card and she made the purchase on Amazon. Just imagine that. Yeah, that sometimes does happen. She's close to where she knows where my wallet, and if she has to do something, instead of reaching for her own, which may be in a different room, she can take my credit card and made a purchase. And supposing I am now worried, and I'm telling her that I don't know what has happened, And for a moment, she also doesn't remember that she took my card. But then she will say to me, oh, by the way, I took your credit card late last night to make a purchase on Amazon. Same thing. Doesn't matter. Because, and there is one good thing, she, in her manner of talking to me, is convincing, trustworthy. She's not joking around. But she says, yes, I took your credit card and I think it's in the room. So this is the second stage. You know what the effect of the second stage is? The level of my anxiety and my uncertainty and worry goes down drastically. So this is an important thing to see, because you have, the first stage is you have a lot of negative problems. Problems are negative, so a lot of problems. This one removes the negativity from the problems. The problem is I still haven't found it yet, but the emotional uncertainty and anxiety is gone. Okay? So this is the definition of I'm convinced. Then the third stage is I find it. And I'm done. Okay? And so the joy of having the credit card, which is a minor thing compared to what we are seeking, which is the joy of really understanding what is the true source of joy. So this is what I wanted to say. Stage one is where you have a lot of problems. Stage two is the absence of problems. Stage three is positive joy. So these are the three stages of praptasya prapti. Okay. So this being clear, now what I want to do is to speak a little bit about how will I be convinced that it is around me somewhere. In the case of the credit card, it was very simple. Something triggered. In my case, realistically, what triggered was the memory that I had used it last night. And a memory which is reliable. Because sometimes you can say, I think I went there, sometime I may have gone there, something like. Here it was a very definite memory, knowledge. It's knowledge. So in fact, sometimes in Vedanta, not sometimes, but in Vedanta, we distinguish between manaha and buddhi. These are the two words used, manaha and buddhi. So manaha means a doubtful thinking. Doubtful thinking. Did I lock the door when you're living? No, I think sometimes, maybe I'd locked it. No, I'm not sure. Let's go back. Did I turn the stove off? So you have a lot of doubt. But if someone says, that also happens in our household sometimes, that my wife would say, I'm not sure if I turned the stove off. And I would tell her, you know what, I checked all four of them. They're off. This is called buddhi. It's called buddhi. Buddhi means a knowledge. And manaha means that you're doubtful about it. So the question is, so the convincing comes from buddhi, not from manaha. That means that I know it was there. The question is now, in my life, how will I reach stage 2? What are the elements of reaching stage 2, which is being convinced about the source of joy? So let's look into that. So, now this may be a slightly new concept that we haven't talked about before, so I wasn't sure that, I'm not sure that so there is some element of a new thing. So in Vedanta, the convincing proof is called pramana. This is the word that is used, pramanam. Pramana or pramanam. So pramanam means pramajanakam pramanam. Prama means knowledge, absolute certainty. It's called knowledge. And the one that generates it is called pramanam. Like, for instance, our eyes are a pramanam. Our eyes are a pramanam, all sense organs. So, for example, when you can say, was that person in the class today? And you say, yes. How do you know? I saw him. So it removes a doubt about something by saying, we trust our eyes. Our eyes are given to us to do pramanam. And if in some cases it has, so the eyes are actually a very good source of telling me exactly the way things are. But itself, it may not complete it. For example, supposing you have a fruit sitting in front of you which is made out of stone. Now, your eyes are not lying. They say, it looks like I think I can eat it. And yet, when you grab it, you find that instead of weighing 1/4 of a pound, it weighs 2 pounds. And you say, aha. And of course, you can double check it by just going close to the nose. It has no flavor whatsoever, no smell. So you know it's false. But other than these minor things, your eyes are called pramana. So now in Vedanta, we have to understand what is pramanam. So you see this is the interesting thing. Your convincing depends upon utilizing the right pramanam. So we have to see what are the sources of pramanam. In Vedanta, as also a lot of other schools of thought, we accept 6 pramanams. 6 pramanams. So one of them is pratyaksha or sensory perception, as we talked about already, about seeing something through the eyes. Sensory perception is a valid pramanam. Validity of, we are examining the validity of the pramanam. So that's there. The second one is inference based on the validity of the sense organs. Inference. So inference means, as you know, that you don't see it directly, but you can infer that in fact it is the case. The classical example of this is that you see, as you're driving by, in the distance you see black smoke arising from a wooded area. That's all you see, black smoke. What is your pramanam? There is fire there. Now, the reason why it is an inference and not pratyaksha is you don't see the fire. You don't see the fire. But you can infer based on the fact that there is no such thing as a black smoke. The white smoke is a different thing. White smoke means that it could be from a steam. Black smoke is only possible when there is carbon in there, and that comes from the fire. So you say, aha, there is fire. So inference is a valid pramanam. But the inference also depends upon previous pratyaksha and previous knowledge that only fire can create black smoke. So inference is also a valid pramanam. Then the next one is called postulation. And if you're keeping track of all of this, this is called pratyaksha. This is called what is the Sanskrit for inference? I even forget all of a sudden. Anyway, this one is called arthapatti. Arthapatti is called postulation. And it's more difficult to see, but it means multi-level inferences. Multi-level inferences. So a classical example is given where there is a person, sadhu or a pandit in a temple, who is all, you ask him, Panditji, please have something to eat. He says, no, I only do fasting. I don't eat. Don't you eat anything? No, I don't eat anything. I'm just fasting. And the guy is overweight. He's got a big paunch. He's like 300 pounds. So from there you say, he must be eating at night time. And eating a lot, with a lot of fat in it. Otherwise he could not be so overweight. So you have a number of different inferences that come up to that. This actually is quite prevalent. So for instance, Swamiji used to say that when you have a pilot that is flying a plane, there are a lot of inferences that you have to make. You have to make sure that the dial in front of you is actually accurate. And the dial which says that I'm flying at 35,000, it corresponds to 35,000 feet flying. There's another inference. So there's so many inferences. This is what is called arthapatti, postulation, and this is a valid means of pramana. Valid means. Then the next one is comparison. A comparison. That you can actually see something which matches the description. Swami Dayananji used to say that when he went to Africa, he was told that there is an animal that looks like a cow. It doesn't have udders like a cow, but it otherwise is the same size. Is it Willoughby? I think. I forget the name of it. You would remember, you will know that. Swamiji used to give that example. Anyway, I don't know. Somebody took him on a vacation and said, Swamiji, when you go there to Africa, one of those, I forget which country he went to, you will see this animal that looks like a cow. And Swamiji says that was absolutely happened. I saw the animal, and he says, this is the one he was talking about. So this is a pramanam for comparison. So this is another one. Then the fifth one is a definite absence. Absence also is a pramanam. So if I tell you, do I have a fruit in my hand? And you will say, no, you don't have anything in your hand. I cannot question you. Say, how do you know? How do you know? It's not a pramanam. You say, what are you talking about? It's not there. I know it is not there. Absence is definite. So this is called absence. this comes to the sixth pramanam, which is the most important one for our case. So this is called Shabda Pramanam. Shabda Pramanam means, Shabda means words arranged in a proper way is called Shabda, is Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana means a word, a description by a person is called Shabda Pramana in words. Okay? So now here this is the important thing. Suppose you have a person sitting in the class who is visible to you. Visible to you. You can see him sitting there. You might have, he might have even asked a question, so you've not only seen him, but you've heard him. Okay? Then, in the middle of the class, I tell you, by the way, this is my brother. Okay? An introduction. Your understanding will change completely. You will say, oh, he's your brother. Is he younger to you? And what's his name? And where does he live? Interesting. He sounds like you. He looks like you. Yes, now all kinds of things will happen. Before that, he was just sitting there. And you had full experience with it. There was no, that understanding was not there. There was a real life case Swami Dayananji used to tell us one time. He said that he was traveling from Chennai to New Delhi, flying in a plane. And there was a Western person sitting next to him. And so they were both sitting next to each other, and as the plane started, and they started talking to each other, how are you, where are you from? So it turns out this person was from Australia, and he had come to India, and he first came to Chennai. And then they were talking to each other, how was the weather, the normal stuff as people, how are you, where are you, this, that, or the other. Then the person asked, so Swamiji asked him, so where are you going? He says, Swamiji, I'm going to New Delhi, and from there I'm going, this is a real case, real life case, and from there I'm going to catch a train to Rishikesh. So he says, oh, I'm also going to Rishikesh. So why are you going there? He says, there is a Swami that I want to meet. So he says, what, really? What's his name? His name is Swami Dayananda. He says, somebody had asked me to, now what can you do? Now all this time they have been talking to each other, exchanging notes, passing cookies to each other, whatever it is. But he doesn't know he's Swami Dayananda. He's the same person that he's going to see there. So this is what is called Shabda Pramanam. So it's a valid means of knowing. So this is a very peculiar situation. This pramanam means that even though you have sensory perception and you have inference and they have postulation, that you have comparison and there's no absence, you still don't understand. Because the eyes do not say who the person is, what the introduction of the person is. All this just says there is a person I'm sitting. This is the important one for us to be convinced that the source of joy is somewhere in between. There's a very famous saying by a poet in India, Kalidasa. And he has written a poem on this point. He says that if I see two people in front of me, one is God incarnate, God Himself, right in front of me, and the other one is my Guru, I will do namaste, namaskara, my prostrations to the Guru first before going to the God. This is how important the Guru is. More important than the God. And the reason for it is that if it was not for my Guru, I would not be introduced to God. Is pointing out the same thing. So Shabda Pramanam is an important pramana for understanding. So the situation is that the source of joy is close to me, but I don't know it. Until I am convinced by the words of is a trustworthy person. So let's look at that. What are the elements of Shabda Pramanam? How will I be convinced? The one thing is discovering authentic teaching. And we all know how many things that are available and how we go wrong. They don't amount to anything. Why? Because the authenticity is lacking. We just don't know. Things can be, anybody can say anything, and they do. But whether it is really the right thing, I am not sure. And quite frankly, I tell you, they say that none of us are initially capable of understanding whether this person is true or not. It is only when you start to really test things and see it, then people distinguish each other. But in the beginning, it is really your own previous karma that brings you to the right teaching. So the teaching itself must be very ancient, perennial, and well preserved. And so really speaking, in fact, I would say an outlandish statement. Outlandish that it needs to be proved. Any religion which is started by somebody is false. Is false. There's no reason to start a new religion. It is already there. And so, anyway, that requires a lot of, I won't go into that. But what it means is that it must be well preserved from a long, this is what is called, in Vedanta, it is called Sanatana Dharma. It's the same thing that was taught thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago. Same situation. Same common. It's not as though, now we are the modern people. The old concepts don't work anymore. We have to come up with our own ideas. No. You can do any ideas you want to suit your lifestyle, but the fundamental aspects of life must remain the same. So this is another aspect of it. Then, a trust in the teacher herself or himself is important. Because if a person is fooling around, is casual, then it may not happen. And so in this sense, what is also talked about is that the teacher must also have been well taught in by the teaching. So you have to, we should ask, if you meet somebody and say, who's your guru? Where did you learn from? How much time did you spend? All that is very important. This is not just casual stuff. So that also is an important thing. Then, the elements of Shabda Pramana, in this case, which is complex, it is not just getting a credit card or something like that, is much more sophisticated. Now the focus turns not to the teacher, but to the student. Both elements are important. The student also must stay with the teaching long enough to really make a difference. And we don't. We don't. We try it out for a while and then you say, you know what, nothing is happening. Let me try somebody else. New book. Book of the Month Club. So the impetus is, and Swami Paramarthananda from Chennai does this so well. He says, you know what, in this teaching, it takes a while for it to really soak in. And you must have not only a faith in the teacher, but in yourself. That yes, this is something that I want to do. And of course, the truth in the teaching you should follow the right instincts. If it doesn't seem true to you, then give it up. Give it up. But if it does seem true, then follow it until completion. So this is the staying with the teaching until you're... And of course, what will happen is that in the process of teaching, you will see some glimpses of the truth. You'll see that. Sooner or later, you'll see some glimpses. And the glimpse may not last. Here Swami Paramarthananda, Swami Maheshananji gave a beautiful example. This is one of my favorite examples. He said, suppose you are traveling. You're on a business travel or something. And you land in the middle of the night when it is completely dark. And you are staying in some inn or some small hotel at the edge of the town. You get into your room. And the taxi guy just brought you there, and you go into the room, you unload, and you're retiring for the night. And you're curious, where is this place? What is around me? And you cannot see it because it's completely dark. There's no lights around or anything like this. You don't know whether this is a concrete jungle or is it a forest or what, you have no idea. As you are looking out in the window, suddenly there is lightning in the sky that lights up the whole thing just for a second, a millisecond. And all of a sudden you say, oh my God, I'm in the middle of the forest. This is a beautiful one. I must go walking in the morning. And then the lightning is gone. It's become dark again. This is an example of getting a glimpse of the teaching And even though the teaching and the vision in the teaching disappears, but you now have enough. So this guy who saw the garden, the forest-like garden through the lightning, you cannot say that I didn't see it. Even though he's not seeing it now, but he saw it. The details of it, how many trees are there, what kind of that, can only wait until the morning comes. And then you can examine the thing. But at least the structure of it was very clear to him. This is an important thing to see. Oh, sometimes in the teaching you will see glimpses of it which were surprising, very surprising. And it may not last, but you see it enough to say, oh my goodness, this is the truth. So this is another thing, the ability to see. Then the last one, because we are really talking about reaching stage 3, is now you are prepared to go from the second stage to the third stage. So let's talk about that. This is what the real stuff is. Now, as you do so, this journey from stage 2 to stage 3 requires one important thing, and that is try to view all of your experiences through the colored lenses of praptasya prapti. Re-examine them. Be attempting to view things through praptasya prapti. Because here's what happens. All our lives, this is the definition of what is called a samsari. A samsari is defined as someone who is alone, having problems in life, all of us, limited, grappling with an enormity of experiences in my life, uncertainty of things and so on. And we want to do things so that I can actually gain certain security and so on and so forth. So this is what is called apraptasya prapti. One which is new to me. I have not really acquired anything. So one of the things I want to acquire is security. I want to have more money. Another security is health is another security. And at the end of that also, then I have death staring at me after a few years. And I don't know how to cross that. And is this the end of me? All of those kinds of thoughts come in apraptasya prapti. So my attitude towards life, how I approach things and so on, is all viewed from the angle of apraptasya prapti, isn't it? And to go from stage 2 to stage 3, even if you are not completely convinced yet, but if you have some shraddha, you say, I think this guy is making sense to me. I don't see that the source of joy is very close to me, but I am willing to look into that. Doesn't matter. But you change your attitude from if to how. Excuse me. So you change your attitudes from saying, is it possible, to how is it possible? And you begin to see your experiences through the lens of praptasya prapti. So this has lots of implications. So based on what we did last week, one of the things that is implied from seeing through the lens of praptasya prapti is you become more sensitive to your role in life of becoming a trustee rather than an owner. Seeing the distinction between them. You and I are not owners of anything. But instead of just being just a casual worker, we should assume the status of becoming a trustee. And this also requires an understanding of Ishvara, the real owner of the world. How meticulously the whole world is created, with so much order, with so much structure, and so many implications of this, that really things occur according to an order. There is no real injustice in this life. It is just justice delayed, which I got impatient on. And it's like having an owner of a shop, as we discussed this last week, where I have trust in. The owner has a trust in me, and I have a trust in the owner that things will work out. And I should now use all of my energies in the way that, this is a very good Western saying, that may God give me the courage to change things that I can, accept what I cannot, and give me the wisdom to tell the difference. It's a beautiful saying, absolutely marvelous. So to have an attitude, what it really means, in other words, based on what we did last week, was that we have limited emotional energies, physical and emotional energies in our life. May I use those energies in making things better for myself and for others. And not worry, not to spend a single minute criticizing. If I have to improve things, improve things. But the worry and the frustration, the non-trustfulness that comes from saying, I don't know what's going on, I don't know who's in charge, I think I'm going to do this, should be minimized. Let somebody else do the worrying. Let the God takes the worry. Let me worry. And so, as we said before again, worrying is not love. Worrying is attachment. If you want complete love, then stop worrying. Swami Viditatmananda, I think, had given this very beautiful example. I think he must have received that. I think I remember Swami Dayanandji also. So there was a person who came to Swamiji and said, Swamiji, I hate my boss. He is making life so miserable for me. He has a special dislike for me, and I can't stand going to the office. So Swamiji says, what's the problem? He says, I don't know. We just don't get along, and we are always having arguments, and terrible. So Swamiji said, okay, do something. Okay? Go to a florist and pre-order 30 red roses, to give him the money ahead of time and say, I'm going to come up in the morning and going to pick up one red rose from you before I go to office. You go to the office and present the rose to your boss. And the first day what will happen is you're not even looking at the boss. You hate to look at him. You're giving, and the boss also says, what are you doing this for? He says, I don't know, just take it. The second day you soften a little bit, you at least look halfway through. And he says, I guarantee you that after 15 days, you'll be laughing together, you'll have lots of fun, and you'll have to cancel the rest of the 15 roses. You don't even have to go through all 30. And so what that really just means is that stop worrying about what's happening and whether it's going to be successful or not. You put all of your energies in developing a contribution towards things. So this is how we go from, and so what will happen, we will go from stage 2 to stage 3. It's a process. It's not going to happen over time. So what will happen is, even though things appeared still to be bothersome to you, but at least you have switched off the engine of likes and dislikes. And Swami Maheshananji pointed this out so well. He says, sometimes if you switch off the fan, if you go to India, you find every room has a fan, even nowadays, here also, but certainly in India you cannot do without a fan. There are so many of them. You switch off a fan and the blade's still running for quite a while, but they're slowing down. They're slowing down. So it is the direction you should be sensitive to. You cannot say nothing is happening. I've been studying Vedanta for so long. It slowly will slow down. Your attachments will turn into love. And your self-acceptance. This is the key. I think I've said that here. Yes. You will see that as you study your patience and forgiveness for yourself. This is the issue that we have, is it's not as though you are impatient and unforgiving to others. The impatience and unforgivingness to others are nothing but a reflection of the impatience and unforgivingness to yourself. So, how can you see that you are the source of joy unless you criticize yourself that I am no good, I can't do this, and I cannot, I'm powerless? No. Slowly develop a love and affection for your own thing. And then you will begin to see that anyway, I think I didn't want to put in. I think there was a word that anyway. So what this means is, there is a positive vicious circle, if I can make that. In other words, the more you forgive yourself, more you accept yourself, the greater chance is that you will see that you are the ultimate source of joy. And we can almost go back to the example of the electricity and the appliance. See, so here's the situation. We'll go into this in more detail some other time. So the electricity flowing through an appliance is unable to distinguish that I am the electricity. He thinks that I am an appliance plus the electricity all mixed up together. When you're not, you are very different from the appliance. But you think that you're all mixed up together. So the better it is that you slowly discover that you are the appliance separate from yourself. And the more you think about you yourself as the very source of joy, the better off will be when your experiences also get better. So this is what is called seeing the whole thing through the eyes of praptasya prapti. Have faith that this is really the truth, and then drive your life slowly so that you can go from stage 2 to stage 3. And you know what? I think we'll have to dispense with meditation. We didn't get enough time to do that. We'll have to do that next time. So let me continue on with a couple of more things along with this line. So this perhaps also is somewhat of a new concept that we didn't talk before, but nevertheless. So now we need to develop a distinction between non-binding desires versus binding desires. So I think that Vedanta is all about viveka. There are going to be two things that look alike. You know, so it's not as though very clear cut, but the ability to distinguish between two things that are ultimately different from each other, but not obviously in the beginning, is what really progress in Vedanta is all means. So this one is an example. To do a discriminative analysis, understanding between binding desires and non-binding desires.
I think the TV is frozen.
TV is frozen? Oh.
I don't think it's moving up.
Oh, I see. Thank you. Okay. Doesn't matter. We'll just talk about it. Yeah, we'll just talk about it. So let us distinguish between binding and non-binding desires. Binding desires are one where your attitude is, I really want this to happen, or I don't want this to happen, one or the other. I really want this to happen. This is important for me. Okay? Now what happens is, by doing this attitude, you bind yourself. This is what is called binding. Means that you have now put a rope around yourself. That this is important for me. And in fact what happens is that the nature and your experiences don't buy into it. You may get your desires, you may not get your desires. There may be surprises, there may be aftershocks. So what happens is that if you take that attitude, you really allow the world to jerk you and to tug at you. See? It is like you tie yourself with a rope and you allow an end to be given to others, and they're saying, oh, come this way. Come this way. This is what is called a binding desire. A non-binding desire is you have a desire, you have certain things that you want to do, you turn them into preferences. I prefer that these things are done this way. So preferences are okay, but non-binding desires are okay. But preferences, when turned into binding desires, becomes a problem. Swami Paramarthananda gave this so beautiful example. He says, we like coffee in the morning. This is a preference. You want coffee or tea? He says, I prefer coffee because, that's what I'm drinking. Okay, you prefer. Now, someday you get so busy and so on, the coffee is not available, only either just water or tea. And you get very upset. Now the coffee is tugging at you. You are not tugging at the coffee. It is much better to say, I prefer coffee, but tea is okay. Or I prefer tea or either one. And that's a conscious choice you have to make. So similarly, all of our Swamis all say that just because you become a jnani means that you've reached some stage. It doesn't mean that you still don't like dosas and idlis, because you've been born with that's okay. That you cannot say, this guy he's a jnani and a swami and so on, and he's still eating his own stuff. Why can't he just eat hamburgers? What's the big problem? No. This is a non-binding desire. Non-binding desire, but very different from it. So to have a life full of non-binding desires is a very beautiful one. The effect of having non-binding desires is the understanding that I am intrinsically free from all these desires. It is to understand that I am the electricity, I am the Sakshi. And you cannot do that until you go through the process of transforming your life in the form of non-binding desires. Otherwise, you'll be upset at every little thing that comes around. It's kind of like a positive cause and effect relationship that will happen. Then, through your own experiences and through meditation and so on, you will begin to see that you are okay, you are independent, you don't have to depend on anything in your life. So that is the reaching of the third stage. So I'm just giving you a sketch of it, the method of achieving it, but we'll discuss obviously some more aspects of it. So with that, let me stop at the class and just say a small prayer, and then we'll be happy to open it up for any questions. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Okay, any questions? Yes, Greg?
Well, I have a few questions, actually. One of which you said the ability to glimpse the truth. Obviously people seemingly are different dispositions. How can one cultivate that ability to glimpse the truth?
So Greg is asking, he says, regarding the getting a glimpse of the truth, you have various different people with different dispositions. How can one ensure to get a glimpse of the truth? So the answer to that is to listen to the to the teaching, and to have shraddha towards the teaching, and then slowly it will happen. One day it will just come. It will, as the teaching unfolds in various examples, through arguments, etc., etc., you will begin to see what is being unfolded, and and through some we'll follow it up from meditation also. Meditation is also important, and so what would happen is that instead of being academic teaching, it becomes a personal experience of yourself. So that transference from the so-called outside teaching to something that transforms into an inside understanding will come. It will happen. May come now, may come 6 months from now, we don't know. But it will come. Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess it's related to preparation to go from stage 2 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, how does one be prepared?
So I think that that question where Greg is asking what is the preparation required to go from stage 2 to stage 3. So the answer to that, I think, as we were briefly discussing that, so I'll answer that in another way. So in Vedanta, Ishvara, God, is presented in two ways. So one is what is called Saguna Brahman, one is called Nirguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman and Nirguna Brahman. What it means is, Saguna Brahman means Ishvara in all of the creation, along with the creation. The created world of Ishvara is called Saguna Brahman. So Saguna means Guna Saha Vartate iti Saguna, one which is present with all of its qualities, is called Saguna Brahman. So what it means is, so anyway, I'll come back and explain that in a bit more. Nirguna Brahma means the one which is the very basis of all the gunas, but itself doesn't change. Okay, so the example is that water of an ocean is called Nirguna. It always remains the same, but the flowingness of it, the ability to become a wave of the ocean or an iceberg is the guna. But water by itself remains the same. Okay, so this is the two aspects of Ishvara. So now to answer your question, what is said is that you have to go through Saguna Brahma first before you go to Nirguna Brahma. What it means is that you should recognize the order of the universe and have certain faith in it to calm down your own anxieties. This is what is being said. That please recognize the presence. This is like saying, recognize that there is an owner. You cannot become a trustee. The reason you become the reason you have problems, I'm not talking about you, but I'm just in general, is that the reason one has a problem is that one thinks that I'm the owner. I'm responsible for everything. I've got to do with things. Who else is going to take care of me? So you isolate it down to an individual, and you assume a responsibility which you don't need to assume. So this is what is called not understanding the trusteeship. So to close the loop on your question, the first stage is to understand Saguna Brahman. That means that understand that Ishvara is the owner, there is some order going on, and let me relax and let me just go from, once I have that, then I'm more prepared to go to Nirguna Brahman. And Nirguna Brahman is the same as you. You see the difference? To understand Saguna Brahman means that you see there is an order in the whole universe. An order like there is an order in the ocean. That there are, of course, that's not a completely good example, but there are cause effect, how people are born, why they are born, and all of that. But then Nirguna Brahman is to discover that you as the water is the same as the water in the whole ocean. And so that is the next stage. So to move from stage 2 to stage 3 requires Shraddha towards Saguna Brahman, and then moving on to Nirguna Brahman. Now we can discuss this more if this is not a complete one.
Do we have to go through certain experiences to go from understanding Saguna Brahman to Nirguna Brahman?
No, I think that this is an important thing. In Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says that there are two ways of reaching me. Okay? Karma yoga is one and jnana yoga is the other. That's what he says. There are two ways of, I think it's in the 6th chapter somewhere, we'll probably sketch it out. Okay? What it means is, really speaking, Saguna Brahma and Nirguna Brahma. So Karma Yoga is that you stay with the order of the universe, understand the order of the universe, and stay within the Sukha Dukkha. Not any one particular experience, but just have faith that it will all work out. That calms you down to a point where the Jnana Yoga takes place, where you discover that, my goodness, I am already full, that I didn't realize that. I thought that I was empty, but I have everything that I need. But you cannot reach there until the Karma Yoga part is also done. So to answer your question, no any particular experience, the same question as Greg's was there, is that you have faith towards Saguna Brahma first, the Ishvara in all its manifestations, that there is in fact an order, there is somebody who is in charge, and you relax in the presence of Ishvara, discover Ishvara, see the presence of Ishvara, and then from there discover the independence of yourself as part of that, which is the same as the independence of Ishvara. Something like that. Other questions? Yes.
Well, I'll wait until somebody else. Well,
That's fine.
Just an observation, and I would be interested in your comments on this. You know, this ability to glimpse the truth, just through my observation, it seems a lot of people have that ability or have experienced that to some degree. But without the authentic teaching, there's a tendency to distort what they've experienced in something that's sort of off. It's like they're both necessary, actually, practically for most people. You know, there's plenty of examples of that, you know, inspirational people that seemingly have gone crazy.
Yes.
But there's something just, it doesn't turn out right somehow. Am I making sense? Or?
Yeah, I think Greg is making an observation that as far as glimpsing the truth is concerned, he's saying that there are a lot of people that may have glimpsed the truth, but they still have not reached what they should be reaching, which is a sense of freedom on their own, right? Is that...
Yeah, it's like that, or somehow their glimpse gets distorted by their own, you know, limited sort of...
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just that if the glimpses are not supported with a thoroughly defendable logic and experience, which all hangs together well. Because this is a very sophisticated world, and there's lots of places where you can get lost, even though you think you've reached there.
Yeah.
So this is what I was saying earlier. Swami Paramarthananda says it so well, because he's been teaching a lot longer than I have. And what he says is that it is important for you to consistently follow all aspects of the teaching for a length of time, and develop a certain shraddha towards yourself, not about the teaching necessarily. The teaching helps you with developing your shraddha toward yourself, in discovering that I am okay the way I am, but you have to follow that for a little while. If you become impatient, then we don't know what's going to happen. You end up at a wrong place somewhere. Yeah, that can happen. Any other questions? All right, we'll see you next week. Thank you.